Bullets can't kill what's already dead. Quite by accident, I discovered a dozen dead bodies in the woods. I didn't know how they came to be there, but that doesn't matter. They shouldn't be, and yet they were. Their dried up, desiccated remains were the ungodly things of nightmares. I might have been more traumatized, but the unburied corpses were thankfully sedentary, and long since deceased. Had any of them decided to reanimate and address me when I found them, I wouldn't be able to compose this testimony. An asylum would be my new home. Even now, I wonder if I should check myself into a competent facility for observation. I'm fully aware what I'm about to divulge doesn't sound sane or rational, but I assure you, it absolutely happened. Nonetheless, my first instinct was to back away slowly and pretend I didn't see the mummified bodies stacked up like cordwood. The mind has limits to what it can deal with. If I called the authorities about such a morbid discovery, there would be questions. Lots of questions. Had I stumbled upon some kind of serial killer dumping ground in the short hike? The mounting paranoia in my head worried me that I'd become the chief suspect. By lazy detective proxy, I convinced myself it was simply better to reverse course and erase the uncomfortable memory with copious amounts of high-quality alcohol. The problem was, someone put those bodies there. They didn't individually march into the forest and expire from natural causes. I knew murder was the unified reason they came to be congregated together in the mass dump site. By the appearance of their advanced putrefaction, the crimes had been committed long ago. But for all I knew, the killer was still actively hunting. Drinking myself stupid wouldn't prevent me from becoming added to his rustic woods collection. I remained stone cold sober and hypervigilant that night, and for several more, all for a terrifying scenario which might never occur. Unfortunately, the adrenaline edge needed to stay hyper-focused and fully alert for such things is not sustainable forever. No matter how desperate the circumstances, the body needs rest and the brain needs sleep. Once the Sandman arrived, I crashed hard. So hard in fact, that I slept for almost a day and a half. I awoke with a violent jolt. My eyes frantically scanned the room left to right, to ensure I hadn't allowed the unknown taker of lives to slip in and add me to his grim tally. There was no immediate signs of danger, but my runaway concern still had my heart pounding. I'd slipped and let my guard down. Immediately I leapt out of bed, partially to secure the perimeter, but mostly because after 30+ hours in a dead sleep, I desperately needed to use the bathroom. I can't begin to describe my horrified state of mind when I smacked into something obstructing the hallway. I shrieked as warm urine ran down my trembling leg. I backed away from the unseen obstacle with the spastic grace of a startled cat, and flipped on the light. Nothing could have prepared me for what I witnessed. Nada. It was one of the dried-up corpses from the mass burial ground in the woods. The uninvited cadaver stood rigidly in the hallway, motionless as a statue frozen in time. Its milky, unblinking eyes stared a hole through me like an emaciated mannequin. Thankfully, the unexplained body in my hallway wasn't moving or doing anything, but that didn't matter. The dead man belonged in my home even less than he belonged lying in the forest with the rest of his expired companions. I was understandably agitated for several moments. I expected it to come to life at any moment and attack me. When nothing dramatic happened, I didn't know how to process it. Had it been eerily posed in my house to frighten me by the murderer himself? Such a macabre provocation was on par with what you'd expected from a diabolical mind. But why not just kill me outright when he had the chance? I had fallen asleep. He had the upper hand. What logical purpose would this creepy cat and mouse game serve? I darted around the flesh marionette and ran to the front doorway. It was still dead-bolted from the inside. The rest of my house was equally secure. All windows and doors were sealed from within. It made no sense. How did this homicidal madman achieve such a baffling feat? And why bother? I didn't have the answers, but to my surprise, the stationary standee previously occupying my hallway was now partially present in the bedroom. I hadn't been far enough away that anyone could have gotten past me to move the grotesque human sculpture, and yet it had been. I ransacked the closets and double-checked every room for the culprit. Despite my glaring disbelief, I was the only living soul in the house. Even more mortifying, the dead man was now standing fully within the bedroom. As much as I wanted to attribute the baffling situation to an out-of-control imagination or sleep-deprived hallucinations, evidence to the contrary was overwhelming. Somehow, when I wasn't present or watching, the dead man's body was moving. I didn't bother arguing with myself over the possibility or logistics. My unknown visitor came closer every single time I looked away or blinked. His face was frozen in a contorted mask of pain from whatever ended his life prematurely. I had to face facts. Why was this restless murder victim haunting my home? Misplaced revenge? I wasn't about to find out. I sprinted around the body to flee for my life, but lurking in my living room was yet another petrified Pete. You can imagine that I came to a screeching halt before colliding with gruesome number 2. On a skinny dime, I shifted gears and darted into my study to grab a hunting rifle from the gun cabinet. To my consternation, Another of the freeze-dried crew was already sequestered there. As with the other conspirators, it appeared to be fully motionless, but was obviously working in tandem with the others to corral me. I fumbled helplessly with the bullet. Without looking away too long, I did my best to jam it into the chamber. Regardless, a rapid-fire glance at the entrance confirmed my suspicions. My other rotting house guests were in the process of entering the study too. I realized it was just a matter of time until the entire cabal joined us for an uncomfortable meeting. As much as I tried, it was impossible not to blink. The more I resisted, the greater my eyes watered and burned. They ached and itched from excessive emotional strain and mental taxation. I shouted in defense, "Do not come closer. I mean it. I'll shoot." The three unwavering spokesmen of the underworld stood before me with nearly identical haggard expressions. I assumed their seized facial muscles had been permanently frozen at the moment of their untimely demise. Suddenly my eyes grew increasingly heavy. I struggled to even hold them open at all. I fiercely fought the urge to close my eyelids for just a brief second or two, just to soothe them, for sweet relief. It was incredibly tempting, but I knew what it meant if I did. I fought the good fight, but in the end, they came down like a wave of heavy snowfall. It was impossible to prevent. I stood there in blind anticipation during the self-imposed darkness. "Bullets can't kill what is already dead," I heard one of them reply, with a raspy, gravely tongue and acerbi quit. "We wish to finally be at peace. Please give us a proper burial. Divine justice will come soon enough for the one who snuffed out our lives and our mortal pain." Now, immediately after the posthumous funerary request, my eyes shot back open as if propelled by a giant spring of moral duty. Thankfully they were gone. But I knew the supernatural experience wasn't a dream or a vivid hallucination. A faint scent of decay lingered in the air, and my floor bore unmistakable evidence of multiple ashen footprints. I grabbed a shovel and other digging tools. There were a dozen restless souls lying in the woods, long overdue to be buried.